Неочікувано було те, що ви сказали.
It was fairly surprising to hear, Sergei, that the major achievement was our flag. Maybe there was something else as well. Yeah, there were the stars of the European Union. So far, that's 27, but hopefully there will be more stars. But I believe that and yellow and blue flag in Ukraine, that's our major victory, and it's important that we shall preserve it, not only in our hearts, but we'll preserve it for the next generations. As for the historic victory on our path to the Europe, our approximation to justice, I would like to welcome and congratulate our country, our team. This is the great path. For some, it may take decades. For us, well, time is nothing. We are sacrificing a lot. We are fighting for our independence. We are fighting for our country, for a future, the future that we choose by ourselves, and not the future that is chosen by the Russian Federation. And therefore, the present states that the historic victory for Ukraine is the opening of the dialogue for our country as to the future accession of Ukraine. There's two waves, the candidacy and the second year of the full-scale war, and now there's this opening of the accession talks. If you want, we can talk about this in details. In any case, that's a historic experience for our country. As for the team, what were everyone doing, this is something that I'm prepared to talk. And I would like to extend words of gratitude to the personnel of the Security Service of Ukraine, Navy, Main Intelligence Department for a major victory in the Black Sea. This is a part of our southern operations, and indeed, not many can see and can estimate, but everyone in Ukraine and abroad, they highly estimate the fact that the Russian fleet is no longer dominating in the Black Sea. They're no longer able to influence upon us or on our decisions on what to export or any attempts to block the Ukraine's economy. Now, this gives our soldiers a possibility to stand solid on our ground. So that sort of deprivation of their fleet, of their possibilities, now they're forced to leave our waters, our territorial waters, and to leave the territory of the temporarily occupied peninsula. This is a great work and a great achievement. And I also would like to underline and to mark our partners and the air defense forces of Ukraine and my team for what is happening with the further reinforcement of Ukraine's air defense capacities. That is very important. This winter is different. Yes, it involves challenges, it involves losses, but losses, we are becoming stronger every month. We had a very important visits and several new Patriot systems. I'm not going to tell you any more specifics on that, but several more Patriots will be defending Ukraine during this winter. But I would like to extend words of gratitude to our partners for Patriots, for NASAMS. That's an important package. On the overall, this is a difficult year that is coming to an end. I'm ready to talk about the economy. I believe that the leadership of our country, the officials of the Cabinet of Ministers, they have more details, but what I'd like to say is that all the partners clearly mentioned that there is an increase of Ukrainian GDP by 5%, the reduction of inflation by 5 to 6%. This is also an important victory to us. But I think that we shouldn't have a monologue today. There's a lot of questions, and I'll be happy to answer, well, almost all of the questions. If I won't be able to answer some, then I'm sorry. I can see Ukrinform, and during our last trips, we met your colleague in Washington. So let's start with your colleague once again. Angelina Straszkowicz, Ukrinform. Mr. President, so in the end of November, you stated that you've instructed the military and the government officials to prepare a comprehensive plan on mobilization in Ukraine. Do you have the draft plan presented to you? Or can you share the key details of that plan? Well, that's a question to be decided by the commander-in-chief. This is a very sensitive matter. I believe they've raised this issue in terms of the offensive and counter-offensive operations, in terms of the deficit, and their view at the headquarters was that they've suggested to mobilize additional 450,000 to 500,000 people, which is a very significant amount of people. And I told that I would need to have more arguments to support that, because this is primarily a question of people. It's about the justice and the fairness. It's about the defense capacity and the question of funding. As for the people, I need specifics, because what will happen to an army of 1 million people? What will happen to those people who are already defending our country for 2 years? If we have matters of rotation, of holidays, and then we should have a comprehensive plan. Now, in this mobilization law, you have to give answers to me and to the society, primarily. So they've started working on this plan, and so far I haven't seen any matters of demobilization, even though I believe this is a question number one. It's not the question what's the process is called in accordance of legislation. Maybe it shouldn't be called demobilization, but there has to be a process like that with regards to our powerful soldiers. It's very difficult there. I've been on the front line many times, and I would really want all the military command to understand the challenges. We shouldn't risk losing the most brave, the most courageous people. I mean, I'm grateful for their resistance, for their sustainability, but we have to think of the demobilizational processes as well, and that has to be done in a straightforward manner with specifics and with great respect to soldiers. That is why I have asked to have many questions. As for the business trips, holidays, and transition from one position to another position, different. All the requests coming from our armed forces, they have to comply with the modern challenges, which is very important. And they've also asked a number of aspects with regards to the Ministry of Defense, and Mikhailo Fedorev also raised a number of aspects with regards to the digitalization of something, because there are people in Ukraine, there are people outside of Ukraine, so that's a difficult process. So for me, it's important that if there will be plus 440,000 people for the army, now who deserves the right in this case for arrest? And that's an important moment. It's not working otherwise, well, at least to my personal point, but that's an issue to be raised and discussed during the headquarters session, and then they will have to prepare the draft and present it to the Verkhovna Rada, because if that is the amendments to the legislation of Ukraine, we would need to find an agreement in that question. So the question is very sensitive. We cannot lose the resilience, the potential, but we need to have fairness, which is very important. As for the funding aspect, well, the mobilization in that format would cost around additional 500 billion hryvnia to Ukraine. So me, as the president of Ukraine, as the person who dedicates a lot of the time to search for the financial support for Ukraine, I would like to have an understanding from the Prime Minister, from the Minister of Finance, where they're planning to get the money for that. Thank you. Thank you. And the next question from Kyiv Independent, please rise so that people with microphones could see you. Good afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me. Francis Farrell, Kyiv Independent. Just recently, you've taken a decision on the construction of the fortification facilities along the front line. Can you tell us whether the scale of this work will be similar to the fortification constructions of Russians, and why Ukraine is starting this work only now? Well, the decision is talking not on the beginning, but on continuation for the reinforcement of the construction, which is very important. There are state regional administrations, and I would like to extend gratitude to them, because they were doing this work from the beginning of this war. I'm not just, saying who has to do that. I'm just saying that they've done. If I can see in the Kharkiv region what they've done, and I'm grateful to the region and to the city for how they've united together with the military experts, with the construction companies, and they've compiled the budget together with the businesses. Now, what they've done there, I think it's powerful enough. Now, if I can see it there, and if I can't see that in different regions, well, if I ask a very specific question to our military, who are located in different directions, whether this is sufficient, yes. But why is that here it's weaker than in Kharkiv region? Now, I don't want to give any specifics about different condition. Yes, sometimes they're saying, yeah, well, it would be better if we would have that level. So my task is the same. So you need to standardize the solid defense. Thank you. Now, Kyoto, please, to the right of the center aisle.
Thank you very much for having me. My question is on the battlefield. Ukraine armed force seems to be, suffering the serious shortage of the, artillery, sharings. So some says Ukraine military is forced to change the tactic and, operation because of the lack of the ammunition. So what is your opinion about this? And the second question is, Western military support is, failing, seems to be decreasing. And, if without these Western supports, Ukraine, can be losing. So what is your opinion about, this opinion? Thank you very much.
I thank you for the question. As for any possible defeats and what can I think about this, I know about all of this. As for the battlefield, Russia failed to achieve any results during this year. I'm not talking about the year of 2022, I'm talking about 2023. Russia failed to comply with all these tasks, and the messages of the Kremlin are still saying that the goals of the special military operation are the same, and the goals were, one of them was the occupation, and the other goal was that they should be reaching the borders of the Ukrainian Donbas. So they failed to achieve this goal. So we shouldn't be talking about any defeats. So we're not talking about 3 days, but 2 years. Our soldiers are wonderful, and our people are great, and I'm very grateful. As for the financial support, we are working very hard on that. And I'm confident that the United States will not let us down, and what we have agreed in the United States will be fulfilled in full. As for the European Union, well, the stakes were very high. We have acquired one victory as for the EU. As for the 50 billion, I am confident that we have achieved all of that. Now the question is about the time. The first 1.5 billion hopefully will arrive this week. As for the 50 billion, I believe and I'm confident that the decision will be taken in the nearest period of time when they will be having the session. There is some administrative aspects, and nobody would be able to introduce any obstacles. And today we have mechanisms that even if there would be support to a 50 billion package minus one voice, there will be possibilities found in order for Ukraine to receive this money. The United States are also working on a very powerful figures, and surely the United States, they know the details about this support, how it will have an impact. They know about the impact of any details. They know about our insistency. They know that it's not artificial, that it's required to have the resilience of our economy, of our defense, and the people of Ukraine. I believe that I have found the proper understanding with President Biden, with senators. We've had a meeting with both parties, so let us see. Now, the matter is all about the detail, the dates. Now, as for the reduction of the support, talking about the shells, what you've mentioned, and whether they had any impact, well, the uncontrolled airspace around Ukraine, over Ukraine, that had an impact on the operation in 2023. We're not controlling the air, we don't have the proper ammunition, but that doesn't mean that we shall not find a way out, or we haven't found yet this way out. But for that, we do need the support, because some of the aspects we have issues. I mean, we don't have some of the ammunition, but we're working on that.
RBK Ukraine, please.
Milan
Milavledic, RBK Ukraine. Mr. President, my first...
RBK Україна? Лише одне.
RBK Ukraine is just the only one.
Питань одне є і одне трошки...
I have one question and the one to follow your previous response. So, Western leaders like German Chancellor, Mr. Scholz, NATO Secretary General, Mr. Stoltenberg say that the war can go for quite long. One of Azov commanders, Redis, also says it can take years, being the chief of the military in the country. Do you think that the war may not end in 2024? And following up your previous response, if the assistance from the West, financial, military one, dwindles materially next year, do you have a plan B? That is, will Ukraine have something to fight with and live with? I'm thankful to our relations with the European Union. I'm missing some details now. I'd say the European countries who respect us a lot, who are proud of our people, we built special personal relationship with them.
довгострокова допомога
The long-term aid,
це одне буде тим плечем,
I think definitely
про який ви запитали. Якщо
it will be this leverage that you had in mind. Yes, there will be risks, but I think again that we won't be betrayed by our partners. At least this is the result of my visit.
є точно Бельгія,
What we have now, 1.7 billion from Belgium, 2.4 from Denmark, 2.3 billion from Korea, Lithuania, Latvia, the Netherlands, hundreds of millions, Norway, 7.5 billion, France, 2 billion, Germany, 8 billion, Sweden, a bit more than 500,000, and a huge aid from Japan. This makes for a strong basis. So if there are some risks, these amounts, we will be counting them. It's about the multi-annual support for a variety of objectives. Some will go for humanitarian, some for economy, others for social benefits payment. But again, great deal of this assistance from those states is about military assistance. So again, I'm very much confident of our partners. We did nearly everything, and the year isn't yet over. Now, on the war ending in 2024, I think no one has the answer to it. Even those reputable army commanders here in the West, those who say that this is a multi-annual exercise, they don't know yet if it will be. Yeah, we have dialogue, we have thoughts and ideas can be far from realities. Sorry for revisiting the example with a sick guy dreaming of being triumphant in just 3 days. His ideas were also ideas, and they flopped. I'm not going to compare in any way the ideas of that person with respectable partners I had in mind. But again, just to be more specific, the war, a victory, a failure, a stagnation, these all depends on various factors and decisions from different risks, from different areas and domains, but for the most part, they depend on us ourselves. If we lose our resilience, we will end this war faster. If you won't fail in our resilience, we will end this war faster. You know, you can remain skeptical about everything, but you can lose the country with it. I'm not ready for it. And I do know that there are many more of us, millions like me here. We are not ready to give up, to let go our country. From day one until the last day, this is how things will happen. We will keep all our objectives, everything we are capable of, and taken together, we are capable of much more than individually. I think we can make this victory closer.
Будь ласка,
BBC World Service, please.
Встаньте, будь ласка, щоб...
Just please raise up for us to see you.
Thank you. Jessica Parker, BBC News. President Zelenskyy, you are facing a lot of problems at the moment, wavering Western support, manpower shortages as well. Russia is on the attack in some areas. So I really do want to press you on this. Is there a danger that Ukraine could be on the cusp of starting to lose this war?
Ні.
Nope.
Я так не вважаю.
I don't think so.
Ми були в найскладнішій ситуації.
We were in a most complex situation,
Принаймні,
occupied practically completely.
регіони,
Even the central regions of our nation,
структури, логістика.
infrastructure facilities, logistics of our nation, roads, railroads,
доставка продуктів харчування,
food supplies, the economy,
вбиті повністю кіберударами можливості фінансування.
completely destroyed with cyber strikes and physically damaged and destroyed cities. We were completely blockaded, yet we broke through it.
Не знаю, хто більше.
We, our partners, maybe the God, I don't know who
Ми не сприймаємо зараз цю зиму як
did more or most of it.
дуже дорого достається.
You know, this victory takes exorbitant cost indeed. I do know the system. I do know every bit of our defense. I do know every moment of things coming into Ukraine, those missiles and other things. We are fighting for each defense system. I do remember the other winter we had.
У нас інша ситуація.
Now the situation is different. And I agree we have challenges with amounts of aid, with artillery shells, with anti-tank grenade launchers, with 955 artillery systems, with timely repairs of those systems. But hubs are opening to maintain them. Yeah, there were times with our neighbors when we could not reach the hub because of politics involved. But everyone understands that it is simple just from the first glance. There are risks indeed. You're right. But we are living creatures. We are people and we live here in Ukraine and we fight and we believe and we should believe not with words but with deeds, with our own steps on a daily basis. This is what we need to do. At least not to be ashamed afterwards. Okay, Українська правда.
Доброго вечора, пане.
Good evening, Mr. President. Can I take the mic?
Наступний рік є багато факторів вважати, що наступний рік
There are many factors that might be at play for the upcoming year to make it a decisive one. Definitely, electoral cycles may mean that the support will dwindle, and we will have to increasingly rely on our own efforts and forces to keep as the nation. And obviously, it looks like our state cannot win over call centers that are robbing our citizens on a daily basis. We increasingly hear from businesses about them being pressured by the state, and meetings with the president sometimes lead to contrary results, with the pressure going even deeper. We see a huge gap between the frontline life and the life in the rear. There were videos of recent celebrations from a prosecutor, and we see how they're different from realities. We see that MPs are buying luxury cars. Some MPs are enjoying their lives overseas, in Monaco, in Dubai, and elsewhere, and we unfortunately understand that we can still lose if officials, if MPs will still enjoy their interests over the interests of the public and the society. So my question is, what you could do as a president, who could you replace among your team to make our country stronger so that our military on the front line would be 100% sure that the time they spend there is not being, disregarded by MPs, but the time is rather used 100% for the benefit of the country. Yeah, thank you for the great number of your questions. I would really love to see you helping me to answer them. As regards my team, not a big one, 5 to 6 managers. If I lose them, then it will mean all of us will be weaker. The air defense systems and so on. With all respect to you, I cannot afford it myself. As regards MPs, you are completely right. They have to do their own and mind their own business exclusively. They have to remain a moral authority in the country, which is not happening.
колосальна і просто не займався просто
I would put it like this.
риторикою і
I would not go into the rhetorical construct. I would rather say that there is a percentage of people who work, who vote, and they did vote for pro-European laws, for reforms, the ones that will usher the way for us to get the 50 billion facility that will kickstart our economy, that will allow our businesses to come back to work, and those businesses will be helping our military afterwards. This is the sequence of steps. I do agree with your intentions. I do understand the atmosphere around it. But I don't think that an MP
да, він не має права.
who's enjoying himself,
Відрізняється від бізнесмена.
yeah, he is not right in doing that, but he is no different from a business person launching fireworks to celebrate his birthday.
Повинні бути моральні.
I think all government officials or public figures have to become moral examples. This is what we don't have yet. Well, the president cannot just let them go, all of them, because then it will be necessary to have elections, which is not what we have to have in the wartime. I am living according to the laws of Ukraine, and they expressly prohibit that from happening. Maybe I'm not the best one, but this is what we have.
Склад Верховної Ради України треба.
So, yes, there should be probably changes in the parliament to take and adopt new legislation to have elections during the wartime. Maybe, but, I will make everything to see all of the MPs in the parliament vote for those laws that are necessary to have the fighters with corruption then dog and neck those MPs afterwards. This is what is happening now. No one will stop that. I think we are fighting corruption risks. Our partners say that the funds they provide us with for armaments, these are not at risk because we do have some reforms going on. Again, people, please understand that. People are like us.
Є людина.
There are people who would go to the trenches to fight. There are others who, regardless of them being in the government or not, they would rather go abroad. I mean, someone of a fit age to be mobilized. The people who would bribe someone, grease the cogs to move out of the country. So, yes, there is an idea that corruption should be punished severely. But let us not forget those who do something for Ukraine. There should be a unity moment here. It's better to fight corruption together rather than split the lines into those who are good and bad. It's very important today not to split us ourselves along the lines. Law enforcement, anti-corruption authorities, security service of Ukraine, they will definitely comply. They will definitely fulfill their obligations and do the job. And there will be court cases, and they will be just. I hope so.
Будь ласка,
Good. Now the MPR in the very end to the right, and please raise so that, yes, please get up so that people can see you.
Joanna Kakissis from NPR. Thanks very much. Has Viktor Orban or any other leader pressed you to accept an armistice that includes giving up occupied territories along current lines? And if so, how have you responded and how would you respond?
I never spoke with Viktor Orban about ceasefire with Russia or dialogue with Putin or something like this. Never. Maybe he's raising up these topics with his friends or some leaders in EU or whatever, I don't know, abroad of Europe, in the United States. I think it was something was in his speeches about it. But I don't know. I don't know. For me, it's something strange sometimes his policy or politics is not very friendship to us, and he knows it. This fact he heard from me. Yes, I said him that because I had a lot of questions to him. But anyway, we are neighbors, even with all these challenges. And during all these years, especially 2 years of full-scale war, I mean, this experience of our direct dialogue didn't give us possibility to feel that they are our real strong neighbors against Russian occupation. But anyway, we are neighbors, and we are trying to find solution in some questions. But for it, we need to organize meeting. Last time in Argentina, I told to Orban, I said, Victor, can you tell me one reason why you are not supporting us in EU? It was before the decision. He couldn't tell me. And the second one, tell me one more reason why we can't organize official meeting between us. And he also couldn't find the answer. But I think we found a solution that very diplomatic one, that our sides will work on it. That's great.
Далі, будь ласка.
Then the weekly mirror, the second row. Good evening, Mr. President. Whenever we are talking about how not to become, how to gain a victory, we think of three things. First, about the effective transition of the state management system to a military kind of style, and then the planning of recovery, and third, about the fighting with corruption. So I have three questions to you. First, have you thought about using the example of the democratic countries who face the same challenges to combine the political elite and create a government of unity with professionals, technocrats, because you are kind of doing a lot for the international relations, but inside the country you are lacking the effective experts. And how would you commend the recent step that was made by the government, who wanted to vote for the resolution with several resolution 5655 that was made in favor to the constructors, which is lobbied by Olena Shulyak and Alexander Kubrakov. We're talking about this 50 billion. Well, no. What 50 billion are you talking about? Look, the European Commission just recently, before the accession talks, they two times they've insistently recommended you not to sign this law, and you didn't do that. But the true heroes, they would try to circumvent this. Look, I will have to stop you. Look, let's start, with first step. So your first story was whether we will be transferring the government to the military planning. What haven't we done? I'm talking about the whole system of the state management. What do you mean? Could you be very specific? Because we always are kind of not or failing to do something in a timely manner. Because I'm sorry, you're talking a lot. That's why you can't do that in due time. Well, I'm taking very seriously your questions. I mean, today we are reducing the expenditures of the government officials. I'm working in order to have further reductions in the government. But if we won't have any people there, it will be difficult for us to govern the country. As for combining the elites, well, we have some questions to MPs with many representatives of different parties. So whenever you're saying, like, to change them to technocrats, can you offer, well, and thank you for underlining that I'm somehow, dealing with this international relations. I'm not only one. We have a great team, Igor Zhovko, Andrei Stefanishina, Mikola, and many others. This is a very good diplomatic team, but thank you for mentioning this. I think there is a result. There are certain specifics, not rhetorics, but very specific international achievements, the support, the weapons, the EU. Okay, let's stop on that. Now, as for the technocrats, or these technical experts, can you tell me the political party, any political party, any person who can be the prime minister? I think just if you could, I think every party would have professionals who could be who could become ministers for this government. Look, just wanted to ask you. I have not too much time, so I want you to ask a very specific questions. If you want to listen to my answer, now, if you know how to help Ukraine in your questions, you can just tell what exactly. Don't just give, general issues. I understood about the government officials. I don't want to take, them from the MPs, because I've been asked 500 billion for a mobilization. As for the technical experts and about the law, etc., that someone attempted something, let's not leave with the talks. If there would be kind of a signature of this law, then we would go back to this question. Fourth, as for the law on the constructors, nobody kind of applied to me for not signing this law. So that is my personal choice, and there's the reasons for that. So nobody from the EU or from the United States or from G7 never raised this issue. Now, as for what was the third one? About fighting corruption. Currently, around 1,000 cases of top criminals in committing the corruption crimes are about to be closed, because the head of the specialized committee was not doing anything. Well, we all know about the amendments of Lozovoy and the specialized deputies, Tatarov and Smirnov. They failed to do anything to motivate the majority in parliament to provide legislative tools to the High Anti-Corruption Court for the court to take fair decisions and not to close the cases automatically because we don't have the criminal procedural code working. Well, it's important, to read a lot, but it's better to be kind of literal, because, if you give a lot of details, it doesn't mean that you understand everything. Well, first of all, Yunashis is not the head of the committee. If I'm not mistaken, Rastina is the head of this committee. So let's talk as professionals. I will try to explain to you the anti-corruption infrastructure. The specialized committee is run by Anastasia Raitina. Then, the Office of the President of Ukraine is not dealing with the anti-corruption bodies. Third, not a single aspect. All those people that you've mentioned, these deputies of the Office of the President, are not dealing with the anti-corruption, and we are not the subject. They're not the subject of legislative issues. So whenever you were saying that the office have not done any laws or any initiatives, I'm kind of surprised. Now, all these laws in fighting the corruption is supported by the European Union, by the G7. So this list over laws was provided to the President of Ukraine by the specialized committee and to the head of our government. So all the relevant laws that we had to vote, as of now, we voted for that. That's it. That's it for that topic. So once again, dear colleagues, please ask one question and please show respect to your colleagues. Okay, then IRD to the left in the center, please.
Дякую.
Thank you.
Thank you for getting the possibility. I would like to ask, how does the war in the Middle East is influencing the attacking war of Russia in Ukraine? And do you plan to go to Israel soon? The Radio Andrea Ber.
Війна на Близькому Сході, як
The war on the Middle East, just as any war and other challenge on any continent
стоїть присутність або
where there is a presence or an influence of Russian Federation and has an impact on the support to Ukraine. And Middle East is not an exclusion, it's a fact. And this is not a new information for you, because there is a decentralization of focus or consolidation around Ukraine or supporting Ukraine at different international platforms and deconcentration of the informational space around Ukraine abroad. So all of that in a comprehensive manner is affecting the support to Ukraine. What I can tell you, we know that this is a tragedy. This is a challenge.
на Middle East а вже ж і
For the Middle East. Surely, I understand this, but we also have to recognize that we have a full-scale war. Yes, there is a tragedy, and my condolences to all the people who lost their lives in the Middle East. But in that case, Russia has succeeded. Well, they have certain success. They don't have a success on the battlefield, but Russia has certain successes on the diplomatic field. That's a fact, because some countries are starting, to think, and some countries are starting to balance. Whom should they prioritize the support, either Ukraine or Israel? Because, well, Ukraine has a full-scale war. Others say, well, Ukraine is already kind of receiving our support for 2 years, and now the Israel is facing a significant challenge. Well, that were the voices that we've heard in the beginning of this tragedy. That is why this is definitely not having a positive impact on Ukraine. As for my visit to the region and to the Middle East, I was ready in the very beginning. This is a fact. And that was my direct signal to the counterparts abroad. Well, maybe they had different priorities. I can't play a lot with my own timetable, agenda, and priorities, because I'm leading the country at war now. Now the Inter TV channel, please.
Lilia
Nelehaga from the Inter channel. Greetings. I would like to go back to the question of support from the United States. You've talked about some deadlines that we would need to wait for a certain period of time. So how long can we wait for their support, and how critical this support for Ukraine? Well, this support is required now, surely. It gives a signal to the EU about opening their own packages of support, but I'm happy that we've heard one another and that the signals from the United States, well, the signal, that would be a signal from the United States, and Europe is a Europe. That's a decision by the Europe. I'm grateful for this kind of independence on behalf of all the partners that we have and their support to Ukraine. As for the United States and their support, I believe that it will be very soon.
Будь ласка, там сам.
Now, Associated Press close by. Eugene, can you please get up?
Доброго дня.
Good afternoon.
Скажіть, будь ласка, якщо
Could you tell us, please, if Donald Trump will be elected as the next president of the United States, his policy would be an attempt to freeze the war and to reduce the support. Do you think you'll be able to convince him? Thank you for this question. I think he will have a different policy. He's a different person. Well, if he will be elected as the U.S. president, it's not for us to elect. It's their people who elect their own president. I'm not sure that the national policy will be changed towards Ukraine, but still, we have to kind of understand that leader has an influence, and every leader, right after the election, because he got support and most of the people said yes to him, so this first signals in the policy by different leaders, and now we're talking about the President of the United States, and his first signals will be very influential. Now, if the policy of the next president, whoever he is or she is, would be different to Ukraine, if that policy would be kind of colder or more kind of inner-oriented, if they would economize more, then I think these signals will have a very significant impact on the course of the war in Ukraine, because it's like, you know, the whole world. If one powerful detail is left behind, then the mechanisms start dismembering, start breaking. So if we let the leaders of this support to move out of these mechanisms of support, that will have an impact, and surely not positive, from the assistance from Europe. Thank you. Now, Anadolu, to the right of the aisle.
Дякую за важливость. Добрый вечер.
Добре.
Позвольте на русском.
Будь ласка. Будь ласка.
Господин президент.
Як життя змінилось, що
Well, the life has changed because the interpreter started interpreting me. Okay. As the result of the Israeli attacks, around 20,000 civilians were killed in Palestine, including 8,000 children. Do you see any similarities between what has happened to the civilian population in Gaza Strip and what has happened to the civilian population in Ukraine? Can you call the death of the civilian population in Palestine as the butchery? And do you condemn that? Well, thank you for the question. We recognize, first of all, we recognize the policy of both countries. We recognize this tragedy. We also recognize that the humanitarian consequences are horrible on the territories of both countries. And we recognize the independent nation of Israel and the independent nation and the people of Palestine, but I cannot compare this to our war, and I will tell you why. The occupation and the invasion of Russia into Ukraine did not start with the terrorist attack of people with Ukrainian nationality the territory of Russia. Nobody did this. We lived in our independent country, and then the enemy came to us and started killing our people. So these are different things, and surely I would like to offer my condolences.
Same place, Gazeta Wyborcza Poland.
Piotr Andruseczko, Gazeta Wyborcza. Ви вже трошки про це згадали.
You've mentioned it actually already. I mean, certain issues with neighbors. In the past months, we've seen some problems arising in relationships between Ukraine and Poland. But there's a new government in Poland already, which is pro-Ukrainian, with a clear-cut pro-Ukrainian position. And Donald Tusk mentioned it clearly. Yet still some problems remain, which is about border blockades, grain problem. To overcome the problems, a compromise might be needed from both countries. Is Ukraine ready for one? Maybe some compromises are needed. Or put otherwise, what is your vision of further relations with Poland? Some changes might be needed, not? For first, I'd like to thank Poland and President Duda, your public. You've been with us since the beginning of war. You are our neighbors. You hosted our people, and I did everything to the max to thank you. Probably it wasn't enough, but still we are thankful to you, historically as well. But again, we need to be open-minded with you. And the Polish public and President Andrzej have always said it, that the Ukrainians are defending Poland with their lives. I think we are brethren, and you've been helping us as much as you could. This is for a fact. And we stood for you, for your independence, and we continue standing. I did have very powerful relationships with your cabinet of ministers. I would go out to Poland also with my spouse. Then the blockade of our borders came. You know, it's not about doing business at the time of war. It was about survival. We had no free corridor, free, independent Black Sea corridor to bring our grain out. And we had problems in Slovak Republic. We could run into problems with Romania. We had problems with Hungary and with our best friends in Poland. So what we're left with, we don't have sea. Where else? We had no chance. So you mentioned the compromise. So the question is, what kind of compromise? We are ready. Is it a compromise just for us not to survive, to stop selling our grain? We are not going to sell our grain to Poland. Let us take the grain out of the country. You don't know how the Ukrainians are treating Poles with great love. And if someone would say that there is a conflict between us leaders, two leaders of the countries, the Ukrainians started defending you. This is like, you know, neighborhood, lives between neighbors. Just consider it. From April till September, it was really a challenge. We lost hundreds of millions of dollars. We lost some of our yield, and it was happening on a daily basis. And I was being asked on a daily basis inside my country from farmers, what could we do or should we do? Our fields are mined. We need to get the grain out of the country. Again, I'm deeply thankful to your nation, but you have to understand me. I'm not a rag. I have to defend the interests of my nation at the time of war. So what I ask for, just let us get our grain out of the country. We weren't given this chance, and it wasn't correct. It wasn't right. So it's like, you know, one being a landlord and another being, you know, a tenant. And yeah, there was a political signal, you do know that. And everyone in Poland, in the Polish society, knows it was about politics, it was about the elections that those leaders lost. And they told the leaders of Ukraine at that time that you would lose. You would lose this game because our people cannot suffer. It's not about money. We lost. There's always a law there. The whole EU was against these blockades. And thanks God, Romania emerged. Sensible Romania. Its President Johannes helping my country, our farmers, to survive. He also had challenges. He had strikes there, but he demonstrated his ability to remain a strong person. I said first it's about values, then about the value of goods. Now you have a new government. I had a contact with President Duda. He would greet me with our holidays, and I'm telling that I do believe that the new government will deblockade all these blockades because of its artificial nature. We are ready to ensure that people in Poland lose nothing, but we should not politicize the grain matters when we are completely blocked. By the way, do you know how much Poland lost financially? We built a corridor via Moldova, Romania, the railroad one. We had a Black Sea route opened, and exports via Poland started to reduce. We didn't want that. I had a talk with President Donald Tusk, and I'm thankful to him for his position at the EU session. We talked with him on the eve of it. I do believe that we will be able to level everything. I want to believe in this. Mr. President, my Ukraine channel. My question is about our tomorrow. Definitely it will come, but the question is about security, us being in NATO. And in terms of security guarantees, we have this declaration since July. We have bilateral negotiations with countries, but what are the results of these negotiations? Maybe it's about, Britain, the UK being the first to sign some bilateral document. But what about NATO membership? Will Ukraine join NATO in a gradual manner like Germany did? And, Russia, with its salami tactics, taking away a bit of land to prevent the country from doing it, how we will deal with it? Okay, thank you. On security guarantees, the process is on. It unfolds a bit slower than initially I had an idea of it. And we had a meeting of my team right today on also matters of security guarantees, how to make it come faster. A lot depends on us ourselves. We tend to put the blame on our partners in some matters, but let us do the justice. A lot depends on us. The headquarters of the army, the MOD, the military, we have to be able to transfer our vision to our partners. And this is a very, very powerful core of all those security guarantees and related negotiations. We are yet to send this information, this vision. I do understand lots of challenges around, but we still have to do it. This is about security guarantee. Now, concerning NATO, we do know that this is the most powerful option for us. We are not being invited there. Signals regarding some partial membership. I think this is, this is nonsense. just without being too rude to those voicing this up, yeah, there are some messages being floated here and there. But again, we've never been given any such proposal from any of our partners. And even if yes, it would be really hard for me to understand how this could happen. Just, imagine someone, a human, thinking that he is a human. This guy is sitting in Moscow and he says that the special military operations objectives remain unchanged. To say that he doesn't want to change anything, he wants to go right to where he intended. Now, what will happen or would happen if Ukraine, a part of it, is in NATO? I think it will bring huge risks. I think if a part of Ukraine is in NATO, you heard signals about Finland when it was working on that. There were rumors that he would invade Finland to fight NATO. So the question is, will NATO countries fight for a bit of Ukraine remaining with unclear status? We won't recognize the occupied territories as the Russian ones. And that will mean that we are kind of not entirely in NATO. We are a country, a part of which is in the security union of NATO, and another part is under Russia. So I think it's a fantasy, Speaking of the UK, the maritime component is under discussion, but again, we have to revisit the topic of our homework that we are yet to deliver. Thank you. IFP, please. Left, closer to the aisle.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is, given the lack of breakthroughs on the front line, would you consider changing your strategy, including the goal of returning to 1991 borders? And also, what about changing the military leadership, for example, removing Zaluzhny? Thank you.
Дуже дякую вам. Стратегія не може бути змінною.
The strategy cannot and should not be changed because it's in our constitution about our territories. The tactics can change after careful consideration of the results of our activities in the south of Ukraine in 2023. So until the end of this year, we will get this understanding, as well as an understanding of our further plans and steps.
Будь ласка, New York Times.
New York Times, at the very end of the hall. I think there will be more questions like that.
Andrew, підведіться, так, дякую.
Please, Andrew, would you rise?
Andrew Kramer with the New York Times. Mr. President, could you describe your position on negotiations? When and under what conditions would negotiations be in Ukraine's interest? Thank you.
У нас є формула миру.
We have the peace formula, and this is the only platform today which is in working order. The last meeting in Malta was quite good, with nearly 70 countries there. We are going to have a meeting in Switzerland. The platform of the World Economic Forum will also have a very important segment on that, and we will be working to see that meeting have representatives from all the continents, including the global south. And we'd love to see maybe 80 countries, maybe more. We are not chasing numbers, but the numbers do matter. Political or geopolitical isolation of the Russian Federation will depend on that. After the meeting, we will be working on how to organize the summit already at the level of leaders, because the meeting will finalize the last 5 points of the peace formula. The first 5 points were discussed by the security advisors during the meeting in Malta, and the last 5 points will be finalized at the meeting in Switzerland. After that, we are going to organize a summit of leaders, and when it happens, I'm sure we will have to do everything, given this defocusing from the Ukrainian situation, given the conflicts and wars around the globe. I think we will nevertheless have to focus on the story of Ukraine, in Ukraine, and the peace formula, and think that our recent visit to the United States, Latin American countries, and Europe rekindled a bit world's attention towards Ukraine. And we definitely see this direction. We see it has started to change. It's very important for us to see that the attention is being restored towards Ukraine, and we will have Switzerland on the way. So not to say that there will be a full stop here, but it will definitely be a pivotal point. And the platform there will offer an opportunity for countries to reach on some fundamental things with which we will be working to prepare a relevant document. When a relevant document is ready, then we will be prepared to send it in certain given format to representatives of the Russian Federation. When all the countries worldwide unite around our document, we will be ready to send it over. Like we had it with grain, when we send it via the UN and other reputable leaders, we will send it to another party. And if it is ready to accept the document, it will mean that your question on terms and conditions would be relevant. It is not relevant at the moment because we don't see any requests from Russia for that. We don't see it in their actions, in their rhetoric. We have just brazen willing to kill.
Там само, будь ласка, Інтерфакс Україна.
Інтерфакс Україна.
Дуже дякую.
Thank you.
Ви сьогодні вже сказали декілька слів.
You said some words today about fortifications being built. A range of experts commented that as Ukraine's transition towards strategic defense. Do you take it in the same vein? No, but I did respond what I had in mind, actually.
Так, давайте Суспільне.
Okay, Суспільне.
Вітаю, пане президенте.
Evening, Mr. President. This year, Ukraine, for a variety of reasons, maybe objective ones, failed to reach the stated objectives on the battlefield, the ones that also our international partners expected from us. What is your take of the performance of the chief commander, Valery Zelenskyy? Are you going to sack him? And why you didn't respond to allegations of conflict between you? Why would we help someone digging deeper into the topic? We have good working relationships. He has to deliver the result as the top guy in the army, top of the army headquarters. Yeah, there are questions there, but there is also the chief commander of the Tavria group. It's a complex question. What did happen, what didn't, what is going to happen or not, or maybe it won't happen at all. It's a big story. I think if we in Ukraine are ready to bring everyday results, then we will be able to live. It's not about, becoming a victim, no. It's not about putting yourself on the altar. I think being the chief in the army is a big honor, as it is to be the president of Ukraine. This is a big honor. And I'm not getting tired. It's not about him. It's about our words, about our rhetoric, about our actions. You know, it all starts with words, then some steps are followed, and we need strong steps and strong results. That's it. This is my position. I'm not going deeper into personalities and relationships between them. The nation of Ukraine. It's not about things personal. Just for a moment, you know. It's about 40+ million of people. And this begs for results, daily results. Whatever position or office you have, it is about responsibility for each result every day. My plans are to continue working. I do expect the decision about mobilization. I do expect the decisions how to help people in the front line. I do expect some very specific things on the battlefield. The strategy is understood and understandable. There is an understanding of our actions. I want details. I think this is just requirement, because if you have details, then you have answers. 440,000, 230,000, 100,000, 300,000. We have to survive. And it all costs money, by the way. Just, you know, for a second, for a glimpse of an eye, I would even, you know, defend the civilians a bit. When you understand the level of financial contribution needed to support our servicemen. You know, I've spoken on that multiple times. They have salaries, remunerations. Our population, our taxpayers, when we speak about this or that mobilization numbers, we need to understand the very simple math. One military serviceman equals 6 civilians paying taxes. So, take 500,000 people, multiply by 6, and understand our task that we have. Me, myself, the government, etc. Are we having 3+ million taxpayers to kick in since January? It's not about personal things. All things personal I discussed with my wife.
24 канал, будь ласка.
Now, channel 24, please.
Пане президенте, вітаю.
Mr. President, the 24th channel, greetings. We are all talking that this full-scale war has been taking place for 2 years already, and Russia started war, in fact, 10 years ago, but hopefully everyone trusts and everyone works for the sake of Ukraine's victory. But whoever I talk to, everyone says differently, or thinks differently about the victory. Someone says it's going to the borders of 1991. Others would say that there will be no victory at this point, because Russia would remain, and so the threat would remain, and the missiles would keep, you know, flying, possibly. So what do you understand under this word victory? What's your understanding of that? No, personally, well, look, once again, I've just talked about personal things. I don't have any personal things or personal matters. On this position, I have to defend our country in accordance to our constitution. I'm talking about all of our territory, including the occupied territory of Donbas and Crimea. That's how I should perceive that. But, you know, people kind of divide it, and this is how it usually happens during the war when it's difficult. Someone would say, well, we are already here, like at certain positions we're not get occupied, and when you get to United States or to the European Union, well, the fact that Russia could not, well, destroy you, that's already a victory. You will return everything, like sometimes in future with history. I'm kind of skeptic about this, because I think that we should keep fighting, because nobody can guarantee that even if tomorrow we'll reach this, line when this whole aggression started, I mean, judging by this year, you understand that this is, super effects and super efforts. Now, if it happens so, then what? I mean, what would happen then? Which security guarantees do we receive? Who will be a security guarantor? Who will guarantee that there will be safety and security with Russia? Surely, the more Russia will retreat, the weaker it will be, starting from its leader inside their country, because that would be a demonstration of weakness, and all the way till their presence on the international arena. And this is very important. We need to use this time, and with God's help, we'll have this chance. We're all fighting, we're all praying we'll succeed. It will be difficult, but still. Now, Spiegel, left of the L, and please raise. Fedel Petrov Spiegel from Germany. A question from Germany. Whenever we hear statements like from the Chancellor, from Scholz, who says that we're ready to support till the very end, do you believe in this till the very end? Germany, headed by Chancellor Scholz, is second in terms of the amount of support we receive, a second in terms of the global support to Ukraine. I'm talking about financial, military support altogether. And I want to express words of gratitude to this society and to him for doing that. Well, till the end, what it means, we'll see. We'll judge by people's steps and not only by the words. Currently, he's helping very significantly. We are expecting one more Patriot system from him. That is a very important decision for ourselves. We understand how it helps to the region that is fighting on a daily basis for their life. Now, the Forbes Ukraine left by the wall, please. Greetings, Serhiy Shevchuk, Forbes Ukraine. Thank you for the chance to ask this question. Mr. President, I would like to go back to the interior aspects, and for that I would like to go back to the words of Serhiy Pozniak, the interpreter, who's the head of Manifest 42 organization. Just recently they said that after your meetings with the business in summer, the problem of exerting pressure on the businesses was not solved, but in fact escalated. There were words like shady law enforcers continue to arrest or seize accounts, continue to visit the offices of the businesses. So the question, to what degree are you aware of all this situation? And if so, what could be the outcome or the solution to this situation? This person, was he, did he attend the meeting that we had? Well, in my understanding, yes, he attended. Well, that shouldn't be the case. It couldn't be the case. Oh, well. I have constructed this platform in the office in order to support the businesses, so that there would be no unsolved, matters, in order to, to mediate any issues they might have with the governmental officials or law enforcers or the custom or the tax authorities. So we were very grateful because they were, taking phone calls saying that there is a challenge, and we've responded to that. So would you please tell that person, so we're ready to support. And this question will be solved only when the relative law will be approved. I have asked the MPs to vote for this law. And surely you know that there were no inspections, but this is the requirement of the IMF. So we've returned all those inspections. We couldn't do anything about this. So I suggested an alternative. Let's make one body, fiscal, law enforcement, whatsoever, and however the interpreters would like that. And only the representatives of these agencies would be able to communicate with the business. I know that the respective law should have been registered in the Verkhovna Rada. In any case, thank you for the question. I will check why this law has been voted for, and then we'll understand that it's not a question to, everyone, but in fact, there'll be only a question to a certain agency. But you have to understand me. I know there's a pressure by the taxation authorities, and maybe there are some irregular steps, but I don't have the authority, to ban the taxation authorities from going to the businesses. You need to understand, we have to act by the law. So what I've told you, this is something I can do. I can't do anything more than that. If there are any other proposals from the interpreters, well, I'm open. I'm happy to hear those proposals. Thank you. Next, let's have Radio Svoboda close to the stage here. Mr. President, greetings. I wanted to ask you about the POWs and the detained Ukrainians currently located in Russia. Thousands of our POWs are there, and their relatives are coming on the streets in different places of Ukraine. Maybe they think that Ukrainians are forgetting about this, or maybe there is a lack of communication from the authorities regarding this challenge, and over 25,000 civilians are currently detained in Russia. That's according to the data provided by Dmytro Lubinets. For example, our colleague Vladislav Yursipenko, a journalist from Crimea Really, he was detained in Crimea over 2 years ago. Then Dmytro Khelyuk, our colleague, he's also detained by Russians. So tell us, what are the mechanisms available to release the POWs and civilians? What you are doing, what the authorities are doing, and can you tell that if this process has become more complicated if compared to the previous year, because the last exchange of POW was taking place in June. I can't tell you what exasperated this process, what made it more difficult. It would be, well, not ethical. So, if possible, at this point, you are absolutely right to say that this process is becoming more complicated. Maybe, indeed, you're right that the authorities are not communicating sufficiently. I will tell Budanov and Lubinets to communicate more information so that relatives would have more information. I understand this pain. This track is working. Indeed, it slowed down due to reasons. There are the reasons by the Russian Federation. There's very specific reasons. This track will open. We are currently working on a fairly significant amount of our people, so that we would be able to return them. God help, we'll manage to do that. As for the civilian detainees, if we're talking about the children, the small numbers, but still we have a gradual return of Ukrainian children. We get support from Qatar in this track. As for our people in Palestine, I'm grateful to Palestine and to Israel and to Qatar. They helped to return our people. As for the population of Crimea, the citizens of Crimea, well, the situation is very difficult, and we don't have, anything to say or to say thank to international organizations because they haven't done a lot in terms of that. I talked to President Erdogan on that, and so far, Mr. President Erdogan did not demonstrate any result. As for the captives and detainees on the territory of Crimea, well, I guess there's all these tracks that we have. We work separately with countries like Switzerland, Norway, and some of the Arab countries in order to return our people, our citizens. We still have a track when we have an exchange of POWs in between of the militaries. So when we have like certain accumulation, and well, sorry for this word, but still accumulation of like enemy resources, we exchange them to Ukrainian soldiers. Currently, these are all the tracks available to us, but still, we are working to increase them. We are working to the international partners that I've mentioned to you, and hopefully, and sorry for returning to that, hopefully this track will work out. We're talking about military or civilians? We're talking about the military track. Well, these are the agreements reached. Thank you. Now, France 24, please.
Thank you. Emmanuel Chas, France 24. 12 months ago, we had the prospect here in Kyiv of a counter-offensive that would be successful. It didn't turn out to happen as planned. What are the realistic goals that you're hoping to achieve and how to achieve them for the year to come, for the next 12 months? Thank you.
I cannot tell you about the goals. We had complications in the south because everyone were talking about the goals. Well, frankly speaking, like all those months, everyone were talking about the goals and everyone was discussing in details how we'll get there and how we'll do that, whether we'll have sufficient aspects of that or not. It's better to go to the south because it's warmer, because, well, the winter, well, let's just wait for some ammunition and then the winter would come later on. Look, it's not, it shouldn't play like that, because Russian Federation still have more weapons. So I can't give you an answer to that. I'm sorry. I apologize to you and to France, because I cannot tell you any details pertaining to our counteroffensive and defensive operations next year. Thank you. Next, Bloomberg. Could you please rise, Volodymyr? Mr. President, greetings. Thank you for the chance to ask this question. We know that the legislators are currently working on a new draft law on mobilization, and possibly it will contain a series of unpopular decisions. We, the society, we partially are aware of those, but still the question is as follows. These decisions, well, could be providing for the mobilization of people younger than 27 and maybe the women. Can you tell us whether you will sign this law if it will be approved by the Verkhovna Rada with norms like that? Well, as for the women, no, I'm not going to sign this. As for the age of 25, if all the substantiations will be provided, and I will see this as necessary, then I will agree to that.
Далі, будь ласка, CNN Португалія.
CNN Portugal, please.
President Zelenskyy, Elena Lins from CNN Portugal. I hear you talking about a lot about unity today. Are you afraid that Ukrainians are splitting up, are dividing as a society, not only about reaching 2 years of a war, but also towards supporting you as a president? That's my first question. And my second question, you were supposed to visit Portugal, at least that was the expectation some months ago. Do you have plans to visit Portugal? Thank you.
Yes, there are plans for that. I don't remember the date, sorry, because the time is flowing so quickly, so fast. I'm still very much thankful to Portugal, the government of the country, the president. We did quite a good job, also diplomatically. It's very important for us to have the support from Portugal. Now, regarding the unity matter, it's all in our own hands. It all depends, our unity depends on us ourselves. This is our weapon of choice, the domestically made one. This is our know-how. I think it has helped us to preserve us, ourselves, our country from the beginning of the war. Maybe it sounds banal to someone, but I think one has to keep some banalities just to have the ultimate banality of life with us. So I think everything needs to be done to see that the unity is not dwindling in Ukraine. About my support as a president, I can only tell you that it has been an honor for me to be the president. And people are watching me, my work, my serving Ukraine. If they don't like it, then okay, this is their choice, the choice of the Ukrainian. This is normal. LBUA at the beginning here. Mr. President, you've mentioned a challenging situation in the US and what the aggressor Russia has been doing. What is your position to the idea of Ukraine focusing rather more on producing its own munitions and weapons? And also, you know, we talked to the military before this press conference, and the military asked me to convey the question, what is your attitude towards improving the production of drones, FPV ones and munitions for them here in Ukraine? Also, what is your stance towards establishing a dedicated unit for drones in MOD? I'm very positive on drone production and special units for that. There should be an infrastructure and structures to manage drones. It should not be a Soviet one. It should be a fast-reacting, modern one. I had a sitting of the headquarters at the moment, and one of the questions was about drones and how to supply them. It's really bad when we are still left with old-time Soviet red tape in terms of logistics of it. We had 20,000 of drones sitting in a warehouse, and for some reason they could not get it to the front line. Yes, the headquarters session sometimes was quite loud about it. But you know, when I'm being asked what about my personal thing? I don't have any personal things on that, but we do need to fight this logistics, and we need to start building them. We will do it regarding production. We will make 1 million drones next year. We will do that. And we will do everything to have this happen. Regarding artillery, there will be more of artillery, 155 caliber systems. Unfortunately, it's still a challenge to produce shells for them, and the shells are a huge deficit. It's easier with systems, but with the shells themselves, because of powder deficit and so on, a lot has to be done, and we need not to relax. By the way, the Defense Industry Forum was quite a success. Andriy and my team, Commission, Umerov, representatives of our military, had nice meetings in Washington. We had an important meeting with President Biden, and we have to be clear about telling that some of the leading world companies, those making CV-90 artillery pieces, those producing Patriot systems, we had meetings with all of them. The team chaired by the head of my office was there. Then I paid my visit there to meet leaders of those companies myself. We will do that, but it will take time. We do not have time, but we will make 1 million drones next year. TVP Poland, please.
Thank you very much. We mainly talk about difficult things, lack of ammunition, lack of successes on the front, the blockade on the border between Poland and Ukraine. But today I have found very interesting and positive news, I think on Andriy Yermak's Twitter account. It was about Ukrainian civilian plane taking off from Borispol airport. And actually I read somewhere that Borispol airport is looking for employees. What does it mean, Mr. President? Will my mother be able to visit me in Kiev soon? Sorry for that question, but it is really interesting.
Я не зовсім зрозумів.
Сьогодні технічний переліт був літака з Борисполя.
There was a technical flight of a civilian plane from Borispol airport, and the Polish outlet wants to know more. Where did the plane, the technical flight came to? Where did they go? I have no information to share. Well, it appears that the Polish colleagues has more. And he says that he read it from your Twitter account, Andriy. Okay. That's another story, yeah. Some other story. But why do you have it in your social account? You had something different. I think that the question is not about that, but when Borisov will be able to handle more flights and his mother will be able to come out to here. Well, we can provide your mother with a car, railroad car. Mom is, our sacred beings. Now, Borispol is like the Black Sea. It's a serious operation to open it, reopen it. The reopening of Borispol is a victory of the Ukrainian aerial defenses. Clear sign that Ukraine has been winning. It's a serious, strong economic move ahead. We do put this question to our colleagues, and we do know what exactly do we need for that. So please tell your mom, let her stay in good health. We are working over her idea to come out here. Freedom TV channel. Mr. President, Freedom TV channel, my question is about the United States. You did mention the support from Mr. Biden and the Congress of Ukraine, but what about rank and file Americans? Fox News has recently published the numbers of those supporting Ukraine to tell that it grew in December from 20-something to 31% this month. So why so? Why now? And did you mention it on your trip to the U.S.? When talking to military manufacturers? Did you feel this support yourself? Thanks a lot. Our visit to the United States of America brought exactly this result, bringing up the number of people supporting us. In terms of the analytic provided by the Fox, yes, I do know the difference, 10% difference. We contacted our colleagues at the Congress, in the White House, and all shared the vision that obviously it was the result of the visit to the US. 21 to 31, it's 10% difference, quite a material one to compare. So, yeah, I think the visit was the right one. We had a number of meetings, public meetings, and not so public, and dialogues, and we had some decisions on that. All the defense companies are on our side, willing to do that, and they actually asked us to work with the US government to avoid additional extra red tape, particularly on licensing, to let them move faster towards co-production. And we discussed that at the presidential level in the White House, and the president promised to work on that.
Будь ласка, El País.
El País.
Трошки далі від центру.
I think we answered nearly all of the questions. By the way, a brief announcement that we have 12 minutes to go and we are to close at 8.
You talk about the support of the United States and the European Union. You were recently in Argentina and you mentioned there a conference with Latin American countries. I would like to ask you about how is the relation now with the Global South. And I will also wanted to ask you about the Spanish presidency of the Council of the European Union. What's your assessment in terms of work that have been done for Ukraine in this semester? Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. First of all, my warmest greetings to Prime Minister Sanchez. Pedro is a nice guy. He helped the Spanish presidency as well. They helped a lot to Ukraine. And that semester brought much things closer. We spoke with him at night before the decision, before the next morning's session to deblocate the 50 billion facility. We have very strong relations. We had signals sent over WhatsApp on which type of support Ukraine would benefit from. Pedro always wastes no time in calling me directly to know what kind of support we need. I was completely impressed with our meeting in Granada, which brought a lot of results. Pedro would change the whole defense package right on the go. And we were informed that he would send additional Hawk aerial defense missile systems exactly at the time when Russia was shelling us heavily. Normally, countries do these air defense arrangements taking time and doing it quietly. Instead, it was a very quick, fast-paced reaction, and I'm extremely thankful to you for that. I'm sorry, I forgot the first part of your question, because Sanchez took all of my thoughts. Your visit to Argentina and the Global South. Right. The visit to Argentina, by the way, that was where we met the King of Spain, by the way. The visit to Argentina was important because there is too little of Latin America in the modern history of Ukraine. We also a lot to be desired in the economic relations department, probably because Latin America has traditionally been closer to the Soviet heritage, and because of Russia, that affected the Peace Formula Forum, the economics relations, the support of financial or military aid packages. But, well, with the advent of such non-ordinary personality as President Milei, who came to power in Argentina, I think it really reshapes the direction, the political direction in Latin America. By the way, he stands with us. He is on our side. He spoke in the parliament of the country about his total support of Ukraine and his not acceptance of Putin's policy. We had the first personal meeting and very made strong acquaintance on the sidelines of my Argentinian event with President of Ecuador. We've secured support from Paraguay, Uruguay.
Да.
Yeah.
Orban is Latinska America.
Yeah, Orban, he is not from Latin America. Well, there was an European track there. Yeah, so we had important meetings in Argentina. I think our team will work on that, and we will work with the team of President Milei, and the government officials will meet. Espresso TV, please.
Добрий вечір. Дякую за те, що можна поставити вам питання. Дмитро Дідора.
Thanks for having me. Just a couple of words about IDPs. Them being a lot here and abroad. If I'm right to remember, about 4 million of the Ukrainians left. So whether the start of session negotiations can be an argument for them to come back after the end of active hostilities. What options do we have to bring those people back into Ukraine? Are there any government programs to bring 4 million Ukrainians back home? And I myself am an IDP. Where are you from? I'm from the town of Shastya, Luhansk Oblast. So IDPs, internal ones, hear about reduction of assistance to them. What are the programs available to IDPs who left the hostility areas? As regards assistance to IDPs, there won't be any reduction of them. Because of the challenges related to military budget, I cannot tell you anything specific about the level of expenditures for that. Not now. We will finalize everything by the end of the year, and for the next year we will have a clear understanding of all our calculus on that. Now, regarding economic programs, or rather programs of support, not just with money, but also with loan facilities, on business development, and so on. This is what the economic team will have to work on. We will have it. As regards our people abroad, they are different. They all are citizens, nationals of Ukraine, and we have to defend all of them and protect all of them. I think the majority of them will come back as soon as our air defenses become much more stronger. Well, I cannot tell you exactly, because people become employed there, they have their kids sent to schools there, so maybe they're settled with their lives there, but they will come. The next factor will be a reduction in support from EU member states. I have no doubt about that. The European countries, the US will continue supporting those of us who are in dire circumstances. But, you know, those who've got employed, they definitely will have another level of support. And this, it is nothing to say about the internal IDPs. The situation will be stable. Air defenses, I think it begs probably thinking, considering the idea of multiple citizenship. We will become an EU member country historically in this historical future, so I don't see anything bad about multiple citizenship considerations. I had mentioned them even at the beginning of this skill war. It had been in our program. And actually, there are 60 million Ukrainians worldwide. Not all of them have to live here. They have families there. Some of them were born in Canada, in the United States. But we need to provide them with an opportunity to support Ukraine, to fill Ukrainians, to open their businesses here, to pay taxes here if they want. Definitely it will work for the benefits of Ukraine. And it begs, some consideration. Question is when to start thinking about that. We shouldn't overheat the matter. We shouldn't be too fast with it because there are things and factors pertinent to multiple citizenship. I definitely want our women, our kids living abroad to hear this. Whenever they think about employment, about new life opportunities, I'd like them to hear, please do not hastily renounce your citizenship here. This is important. We cannot lose these people. I think that multiple citizenship will partly resolve the matter. Dear colleagues, we can field 2 more questions before the end of it.
Ганна Гомонай, телеканал
Anna Homonai from the Rada channel. You've mentioned the wife, Olena Zelenskyy. In addition to many other tracks that she's doing, she particularly paid attention to mental health, to psychological resilience. She made this a priority during the summit of First Ladies and Gentlemen. Do you talk on these topics, in your own family? And what would you say to people who are currently asking how to cope with this mental aspects during the war? And any kind of summaries for your own family? Any summaries of the year? Well, the summaries for my family would be just the same as for any other family in Ukraine. We understand that we have a possibility to leave, to work, and to serve Ukraine, and we have a possibility to be together. Because, now staying in Ukraine, being in Ukraine, even in different locations, it still means that you're together. Because if the soldier is on the front line and his wife or girlfriend is in Kiev or in the other city of Ukraine, the soldier, he feels like the person that he loves, that he defends, is here in Ukraine. Like, I'm not saying anything to those women who left Ukraine. No, still I believe that they offer this moral support and the resilience to the soldiers. Just as my wife, she supports me, she works a lot. Truly, she has a lot of program. She helps in the way she can, through this program of mental health. And just recently there was another program for school food. And I'm very grateful to the Warren Buffett, to this school, other support, and now thousands of children are receiving hot meals at schools in those areas affected by the hostilities and by the combat operation. So the life is returning. And I'm very happy that my wife is among those people who support. I'm proud of her work. As for children, my son is a schoolboy. Sometimes he's, joining offline classes, in other cases, online classes. My daughter is studying at the university. Well, I'm happy they're here, and it's a great pleasure that they've made their personal choice, and they're making their personal contribution just as any other family in Ukraine. And since you've asked this question, I guess I would like to thank all of you who's staying here in Ukraine. The country is alive. There's people on the streets, and that means a lot. Thank you. No, there's no time, but since I've already announced one more question from NV, please raise yourself and ask your question. Greetings. Mr. President, recently the representatives of your political party, Mariana Bezugla, has made a number of accusations towards the Commander-in-Chief Zaluzhny, saying that he failed to provide with any plan for combat operations for 2024, that he should be dismissed for that? And could you tell us whether the position shared by the political party is the same as your position? And is that correct, that what Bezugla has said, that there were no plan provided?
Пан Залужний.
By the way, Mr. Zelenskyy, he's also my representative, just as all those others that I've appointed or those who came with me. Well, and I'm thankful to some and I'm ashamed by others. As for any documents in Facebook, well, look, I'm not dealing with that. I'm sorry. I don't have time. I don't have, the time to have this, dialogues that bring no results. I use the social network as a platform, as a place where it can, answer certain questions or give signals to our society inside our country, to tell some important things, some urgent things, or as a format of communication with some of our partners. As for Mariana and Valera and some other people, well, it's kind of, it's difficult. They tend to like to comment, to, hit likes on the Facebook. They tend to communicate a lot. Like on one occasion, they go to the front line together. On the other occasion, they have quarrels. That's difficult. I would say that we need to give results to the country on the everyday basis. Okay, dear colleagues, this is the end of the press conference. I thank you for your interest, and thank you for raising this interest since yesterday, for asking so many questions. Thank you. Goodbye.